October has been a pretty good month for Deon Cole. He has a new Netflix special out. Reviews been kind of mixed, but people seem to like it. He was on Club Shay Shay. And I love Club Shay Shay because you never know who's going to pop up. Like a couple weeks ago, they had Mike Cuban, and then Shannon had on Karl Anthony Towns, and now here's Deon. And Deon talked about he talked about kissing. He flubbed his lines on Blackish, so he kept on kissing Amber Rose. He talked about dating one of Shaq's ex-girlfriends. He talked about working with Jonathan Majors. He said Jonathan Majors, the way Jonathan Majors stayed in character kind of influenced Deon on his dramatic acting skills, which was quite interesting. The first question Deon asked Shannon was about Shannon's viral IG live moment with his chick. But they got into a serious discussion. They got a couple of serious discussions. They talked about relationships. That was pretty serious. And they also talked about Deon had wore this outfit that had bell bottoms on it. It was a bell bottoms outfit, right? And he said he lost gigs. He lost engagements. Like, he lost all these things because people all of a sudden thought he was gay, which is totally crazy. Like, they're bell bottoms. Bell bottoms doesn't make you gay. And he was saying how Harry Styles wore the same exact outfit a few weeks later, and then Harry Styles is praised for being fashion forward. It's insane. That whole story is just insane. But I like Deon. Like, Deon, the first time I came across Deon, he was on Blackish. He started years before. He was from the Chicago comedy scene with Godfrey the comedian and Corey Holcomb. And that's where Bernie Mac was still king of Chicago comedy. Hey, if there's a video or a documentary about black stand-ups from Chicago, please post the link. If there isn't one, I think someone should really do a documentary on black Chicago stand-up because they have a rich history of comedians coming out of Chicago. Way before Bernie Mac. Bernie is the king, but at the same time, there's comedians who came before Bernie and after Bernie. So, if there's a link, please include it. And if not, somebody should really make one. So Shay Shay, the interview, check that out. And then a week prior to this, Deon was on The Breakfast Club. And this is where we got this photo here. So he was on The Breakfast Club and he was talking about how he loves vintage women, which means mature women. Like he has more in common with mature women. He likes mature women. And Lauren, who's filling in for Just Hilarious, Lauren is from TMZ. And she seemed offended that the fact that Deon did not want a younger woman, that he wants a mature woman. Here comes Stephanie Mills. Now, Stephanie Mills, I don't know if she was a guest on before Deon or after Deon, but she was there. And out of nowhere, she comes in. Now, if you don't know, Stephanie Mills is a R&B great singer from the 70s and 80s. She was the original Dorothy in The Wiz on Broadway. She should have been Dorothy in The Wiz, but somehow Diana Ross jacked that role from her. And Berry Gordy didn't even want Diana in that role. But somehow Diana jumped over Berry and got that role. And The Wiz was fine, but she was too old to play Dorothy. Stephanie Mills was perfect. But, that didn't work out for her. But then Stephanie Mills ended up having a great R&B career. One of my favorite Stephanie Mills songs is Two Hearts with her and Teddy Pendergrass. But another favorite song by Stephanie's is Something in the Way You Make Me Feel. And when she walked in during this Deon Cole interview, they was playing that song. And she walked in all seductive like, it's like, ooh, look at Stephanie Mills. And Stephanie Mills is only like 4'11". So she's just sashaying in there. Her tiny self. She got all up in the Deon, man. And he was like, woo. and they hugged. She backed away. She pointed her finger at him. And then they started kissing. Not like deep kissing, but they started kissing. It's like, oh my God, they should get a room. She's old enough to be his mama. But I went to check how old she was. It's like, well, how old is Stephanie Mills? Because she is older. No, she is older, but she's only like 15 years older. I thought she was like 20 some odd years older than Deon. But they was only 15 years apart. Still could be his mama. But, that was a very sexy, seductive scene with Stephanie Mills and Deon Cole. It's like, oh, look at this. But yeah, Deon Cole's cool, man. Like, Deon, when he was on Blackish, Deon was like a flashback to, like, Lenny and Squiggy on Laverne and Shirley, or Rhoda and Phyllis on Mary Tyler Moore, or Art Carney as Ed Norton on The Honeymooners, where these guys just come in and kill. Kramer on Seinfeld, they would just come in and kill, like, especially like somebody like Lenny and Squiggy or Rhoda, they would just kill and be on the show maybe 1 or 2 minutes, or 2 or 3 minutes tops usually. And that's what Deon would do. Like, usually we see Deon as Charlie in Anthony Anderson's office. And for the life of me, I don't even know what his job was. Because it's like, wait a minute, is he a copywriter or is he an art director? But that Charlie character was like Deon. He just said a lot of weird stuff. Like, he always asks Andre, hey, how's Rainbow doing? Knowing that's that man's wife. Tracy Ellis Ross played Rainbow, and he was always asking about my man's wife just to make sure if their marriage is okay. And then Charlie had this thing with Dre's daughter, Diane, because he was scared of Diane, and Diane was like a little girl. And he would say, hello, Diane. And she's like, hello, Charles. It's the weirdest thing. But man, Deon was so good on that. Like when he was doing spinoffs off of Blackish, they did Grownish, which I liked. It was a good show until they flipped the cast. And I just couldn't get into it after that. And then they had Mixed-ish, which I couldn't get into it at all because they changed. Mixed-ish was about Rainbow's parents, but the characters were totally different when they made the spinoff. And I always felt like they should have done a spinoff with Charlie. Like Charlie should have been a Charlie-ish because he was on Grownish for a little bit and he came back because he was all right. He was just better on Blackish. But back in the day, Deon Cole, if the WB or UPN or Fox was still around, we would have had a Deon Cole show by now. Because he's just he's that talented. Like, I don't think he's a great stand-up comedian. Like, I don't think he's in the same caliber of maybe like Cat Williams or Kevin Hart. But but he's more of he's really good for like a half an hour. Because his comedy is kind of weird, right? He reminds me of, there's a white comedian back in the 80s named Stephen Wright. And Stephen Wright was this, he always talked in monotones and he talked like this. And he asked weird questions. And he said, hey, what's another word for thesaurus? And you're just laughing at it because it's like, what do you mean? And he's like, wait, what is another word for thesaurus? Because it's just, his comedy was he was such a smart comedian so fast and so weird. I think Deon's the same way, but Deon is hood enough where he can get urban audiences. Like Hannibal Buress can't do what Deon Cole can do. Eric Andre could, and I love Eric Andre. But he's a hard sell to black audiences sometimes. But Deon can play black audiences and white audiences quite a bit because Deon also wrote for Conan. I'm a big fan of Conan O'Brien, and Deon went on Conan O'Brien's show. He just as a stand-up, Conan loved him, and he made him a writer, and he was on for Conan for like 9 years. So yeah, man, Deon Cole is really cool. He has the BET Plus show, Average Joe, which is a dramedy. Deon's actually really good in drama. And to be honest, back on the talk, the seat that Akbar has was open for a while, and they had different comedians come in. They had Jay Farrell come in, they had Deon come in, and Akbar. And Akbar eventually got that seat. And Akbar's fine. Like, he's a capable host. He played in the NFL for a minute, really didn't do much. But in the career, like, he has The Talk, he has American Gladiators, and now he's gone on Good Morning Football. But he's like Michael Strahan to me. Akbar's kind of like, you're cool, but I don't remember anything that you do. When Deon was on there kind of trying out, he killed every time. He had that crew laughing all the time. Even when he comes back as a guest host, he kills every time. And I don't know how Akbar got that seat. I guess if Deon said, hey, my dad's part Nigerian, that seems to work today. I'm going to start putting on my resume. Hey, I know my father's from Akron, but I think my great-great-granddad's from Nigeria. Can I have that job now? Saying you're Nigerian seems to work. But yeah, so Deon Cole's really cool. Check out that Stephanie Mills interview. His interview on the Breakfast Club when just Stephanie Mills comes in, that's entertaining. Check out his Club Shay Shay interview. I'm not a fan of DJ Vlad, but Cole just popped up on there talking about him kissing Stephanie Mills. So I'm going to have to check that out, even though I'm not a fan of Vlad anymore. But yeah, man, how do you feel when Deon was on Blackish, man? I liked him. I like him a lot. He's a weird dude. I'm a weird dude, but he's a funny dude. In fact, I need to get some Old Spice. I saw that commercial today. I wonder how much money he's been making off those Old Spice commercials because he's been doing that for a while. Smart man. Very smart man.